Let's talk about Iowa. People say that we are just a flyover state, that we have no culture, no sports teams, no sprawling cities. Is Iowa truly a flyover state, or is it an unknown hidden gem? Let's talk about it. More and more people are moving to the state of Iowa all the time. And a big factor of that is because it is a hidden gem in a lot of different ways. And I hear it all the time. That's the reason that people move here. But what specifically are people saying that they make that decision to make the move? Well, luckily for you, we're going to cover that. And just recently, I had a client move to the area because of the taxes, and more specifically, the retirement taxes. If you haven't heard, the state of Iowa has reformed their tax law, and in retirement specifically, they have said that they are no longer taxing retirement income. Think about that. That's huge. If you're retiring and you're going to have an income coming in, how big is that to not have to pay state income tax on that retirement income? That's big. But not only that, for us still working, not retired, I got a few years myself before that happens, but they are going to a flat tax rate. Started this year in 2023, and they are gradually moving closer and closer to having a straight flat tax rate of 3.9%, which will save people a ton of money. And it doesn't matter what tax bracket you're in, you're going to pay a flat tax of 3.9%. So it's huge, and people are realizing how huge of a deal that actually is and making the move just on that basis alone. Now, all of that really doesn't matter if you don't have a job here. And luckily for you, we have jobs aplenty. And yes, you think about Iowa, you're thinking about agriculture, and it's true. We have a lot of agriculture here. It's our number one industry, but we have so many other types of jobs. We have a ton of jobs in manufacturing. We have a ton of jobs in tech, medical, even insurance. So they are abundant and they are well paying, especially when you consider the cost of living in the state of Iowa. You're gonna make a lot more bang for your buck when you're living here. And then the taxes on top of it is super awesome to see happening as well. This channel is really dedicated to what it's like living in Iowa and specifically the Quad Cities. And people give me a call all the time asking specific questions about what it's like to live here, what to expect when moving here. And if you have any questions, I am a real estate agent here in the Quad Cities and in the state of Iowa. So hit me up. My number is popping up down below. I'd love to help you out with any questions that you might have when making that move to Iowa. Now, in the intro, we said we have no sprawling cities, which honestly, a lot of people really like, but that doesn't mean to say that we have no cities at all. We have cities like Davenport, which is where I'm at right now. We have cities like Cedar Rapids. We have cities like Des Moines, which is our largest city, and they're not even quite 1 million people. But the thing that's nice about it is they're all growing and they're putting a lot of infrastructure in place, a lot of developments going on, and it's a huge part of why people are moving here, because you can still have the city amenities and it's actually fairly affordable when you compare it to the national averages all over. So people really like that aspect of it, and it's a huge reason that people decide to make the move to the state of Iowa, because you can have those city amenities, not be shoulder to shoulder with all of your neighbors all the time, and still be able to afford it. So it's really cool to see that, and that the state actually does have cities, unbeknownst to a lot of people outside of the state. Now, not everything is perfect here in the state of Iowa, but I feel like it's pretty close. The one thing I will say about it not being perfect is when it comes to card registration. When you're moving to the state and you get here, you have 30 days to register your car, and it may be a little bit of a shocker on how much you're going to be paying for that registration. What the state of Iowa does is they base your car registration dollar amount based on the list price of the car, and it goes down as time goes on. So if you have a brand new car, your percentage is going to be a little bit higher. As the car gets older and older, that percentage decreases. So it does get cheaper over time, but on top of that percentage of the list price, they also charge you for tonnage, which is about 40 cents per every 100 pounds that the car weighs. And that goes off of the manufacturer's car weight. So it does get super expensive if you have a bigger vehicle, especially. So just be prepared for that. It's not perfect here in the state of Iowa. And that's one aspect that I wish would drop a little bit, because it does get pretty expensive when you're registering your car. As you're watching this, you're probably looking behind me and noticing that it's the fall time. And the fall time is one of my favorite seasons. And unfortunately, we're kind of coming to the end. You'll notice that a lot of the leaves back there are on the ground, which means fall is kind of getting done. And that means winter is coming. Now in the state of Iowa, we do get all 4 seasons. We just are getting out of fall time. Hey. Sorry about the interruption, but Iowa does get all 4 seasons. We're obviously getting out of fall right now. Winter is coming up, and winter is probably the most deterrent as far as people moving to the state of Iowa, because it does get cold, it does get snowy, and it's kind of a long season. At least it feels that way, because we have a lot of cold, dark nights, and it's just a long time to be in that state. But luckily for you, we do have the spring that comes up in about February and March time frame, where things really get going as far as growing seasons. It warms up, we get a lot of rain coming, and it's a beautiful time of the year to be in the state of Iowa. And right after that, obviously, is our summertime. It's a hot one, trust me. We do get those temperatures that are extremely warm. And the one thing I will say about summer that I do not like at all is the humidity that we get pretty much everywhere. The big aspect of why we get all that humidity is because of corn sweat. Yes, corn sweat. It's something you probably aren't familiar with unless you're from an agricultural state, but what it is all the corn and soybeans that we plant around here emit liquid into the air, and we get a lot of humidity from that. So our nights really don't cool off, because you're constantly humid, constantly retaining that heat, and I can't stand it. But it is an aspect of living in Iowa that you're just gonna have to get used to when you're moving here. Now, I've mentioned it before, but Iowa is a agricultural heavy state. We have agriculture pretty much anywhere you go, and you can either love it or you can hate it. The thing I will say about agriculture, specifically in the fall time, is when harvest season happens. And when harvest season happens for me, that's when I get the worst allergies. The reason being is they are going through the fields, cutting the corn out, cutting the beans down, and all that pollen from the whole season is getting up into the air. And for me personally, it just drives my allergies crazy. Can't stand it. But overall, that's the worst part of the year for me. I love seeing all the agriculture around and thanking the farmers for what they're doing, because really the state of Iowa is kind of feeding the whole world. So it's pretty cool to see that we do have all that farming community and that we can feed the whole world. And when you're moving here, it's something that you're going to expect to see, because there is a ton of it. Now, something that, depending on where you're coming from, might be a cultural shock for you is the people of Iowa. And we have a saying here in the state is that we are Iowa nice. When you move here, you're going to have people coming up to you, asking how your day is, smiling, shaking hands, waving at you. They may even bring you a plate of cookies when you move in. In fact, I can say that I probably have a little Iowa nice in myself. Just recently, me and my fiance went out and picked about 60 pounds of apples. We took all of those apples and made it into apple butter, applesauce, apple pie filling, and we had way too much. So what we did is we jarred everything up, canned it, and we took it to a lot of our friends. They absolutely enjoyed it, and it was a good feeling for me and my fiance to be able to share our hard work. But we're really not unusual in that aspect. A lot of times neighbors will bring you cookies, will bring you something that came from their garden. It's something I grew up with when I lived in Iowa. From childhood, we would share our vegetables from our garden all the time with our neighbors. And if you're not used to that type of culture, it's going to be a little bit of a shocker for you. I've had plenty of clients move here and state that it was a little bit of a shocker, but they always seem to really, really enjoy that aspect of our culture here in the state of Iowa. So it might be something that you really enjoy, or if you don't like nice people, it might be something that you really hate. Now, Iowa has been seen by the world as a flyover state, but I hope this video really helped you understand what it's like to actually live here. And if you have any other specific questions that I didn't answer in this video, well, my number is popping up down below. Give me a call, send me a text. I'd love to answer any of those questions that you might have. But if you just want to watch some more videos, well, check out this one right here.